The biggest factor impacting your sourdough is probably temperature. Mixing 2 batches of croissant dough, quite large. I'm gonna kind of stack them up simultaneously, and that way I'm making the most use of my time. All right. Kind of doing 2 things at once right now. Making sure that water doesn't go over. Water goes in first, mostly so that the flour doesn't end up sticking to the bottom of the bowl and clumping up. Just about at the amount that I need. This water is temperature controlled, and I think that's an important thing to consider. I made sure that it was the exact temperature that I wanted in order to keep the entire mass of dough warm enough. And it could go either way. If you're in a really warm environment, the variable changes the opposite, and you might need to use quite cold water. In our case, we have pretty good temperature control in here, but if I start too cold, I'm gonna have to push my mix further than I want to. What I think is somewhat a key point there is that this idea of temperature is actually one of the keys to consistency. So when we were first getting going with our baking, I would have different results all the time. You know, one day things would work out a little bit better than the next, and I would constantly be wondering why. All right, so we just have a full bucket of starter to add. When we first started, I didn't really consider temperature, and I think part of it is, how do you learn how to bake or how to cook? Reading recipes. When it comes to recipes in general, like, often temperatures are somewhat omitted in baking recipes. It's 5 tablespoons of this and more teaspoons of that. It's interesting because it's nothing like what we do in the way in which we get the mix going. We're using scales and weight-based measures instead of volume-based measures. And then additionally, the other massive thing that we're always considering is how warm or how cold something is. For instance, the starter is cold, and that's going to impact the overall temperature of the starting mix. And so I'm making decisions on how warm my water is, which is something I can control with the lever. One thing I did here was I added flour to my water. Not the biggest deal. Rust shows. I should have added the starter first. Now I'm probably going to get the mix going before I add the starter to this bowl, but I'm gonna go ahead and add the starter to this bowl. So ideal order of operations for this croissant dough mix is wet ingredients first. There's no auto-lease, so I'm saying starter is a wet ingredient and putting it right on top of my water, then going ahead and adding the flour. If I put the starter right on top of the flour in that other bowl, more than likely I might be all right, but I also might create some extra clumpiness. So now I can go ahead and add my flour to this bowl. Each of these mixes is 2 full bags, and for this we're using a very popular flour called Artisan Baker's Craft, milled by Central Milling, which is in the western United States and serves a lot of artisan bakeries from San Francisco down, throughout California, Arizona, and other places as well. But the mill is located in Utah. Some of the best grains in the world by specification. The wildly open sourdough crumbs, we have an easier time making them because of just the protein and strength content of the flour. All right, so I have my flour in. So moving on, some more dry ingredients. We have the salt. You're sort of performing 2 mixes in the efficiency of, let's say, 1.5. by batching. So you can see I'm kind of doing the same thing here. I have 2 mixes to do, and so I'm scaling for both at the same time, as opposed to doing them completely independently, which can also be done, but then it's quite literally twice the amount of time. Scaling out a little bit more salt at the same time is faster than doing it all, stopping, going to another action, doing another action, then coming back and doing salt again. So that is, in many ways, the most common way of gaining efficiency in a bakery, is just looking for all of those places where you can batch. So now I'm adding sugar. Just to throw a little context here, this looks like a ton of sugar, but this is a lot of croissants that we're making. Each of these mixes is about 1,000 croissants. So I'm okay with mixing the sugar and salt together and adding them at the same time to the mix, with one exception, that is that I don't mess that part up entirely and confuse the two. So if you get that wrong, you're gonna end up with the wrong taste profile, to be sure. You would definitely taste that amount of salt. Not to mention, you would see it in the dough, because the salt slows the fermentation process down. So spiking your dough with too much salt would definitely change all the variables and your timings. So this is my starter-free bowl. I'm adding the sugar and salt in a way that it's basically sitting on top of the flour. I'm gonna do the same here. I'm gonna take an extra little measure, and that is to combine sugar and water as they mix, create this sort of slurry. If you end up with that slurry in your dough, it just stays through all stages. You can't seemingly get rid of it. At least I've never been able to figure out how. So I just realized this is the one that doesn't have the starter. I'm not going to take it to full completion. I'm configuring the mixer in such a way as I'm going to get decent incorporation of the dough up until now, and I can throw the starter on top and finish up the mix from there. At the rate this guy's pouring out today, we would be here for quite a while. I haven't figured out a different way of doing this yet. Doing this kind of pumping action with my hands, shoving sourdough starter down the feeder tube. It's a factor of consistency in the sourdough starter. So, over time we've actually overhydrated the sourdough starter that we have in here. And that's okay, we've learned how to deal with that, but only to a certain extent, meaning we still want to make the sourdough starter we want to make. We don't wish to make the sourdough starter that the machine dictates for us to make. That's part of the problem with the mechanization of a bakery, is that you start to have to adjust everything to machinery, and there's only so much that we're willing to do that, because at the end of the day, we still are a very human-driven business in the way that we operate. It's through the human effort of bread making that we are successful. And yes, we have to make a lot of bread for everybody on our team to, be adequately rewarded for their time and effort. For a business like ours, we have to win on a certain amount of volume. We have to make more because our margins are generally less. And that's how we end up having enough revenue to pay our staff, to pay our overhead, to have hopefully a bit of a return at the end. So this is that croissant mix that's not all the way done. It is still missing sourdough starter, and you can actually tell. Notice how it's not one mass together, it's quite actually separated. The sourdough starter adds quite a bit of hydration to the dough. It's 100% hydration in the sourdough starter, equal parts flour and water. So we're actually adding more moisture to the dough by adding the sourdough starter. And you'll notice how the dough consistency changes as I add that to the mix. So now I have my mix that does in fact have sourdough starter already. And this one I'll handle a little differently because I'm gonna take it all the way through the process. So there's one ingredient missing from that bowl, and that's the butter, which we incorporate at the very, very end of the mix. And now I'm gonna take this wet sourdough starter and add it right to this bowl. You can see that the sourdough starter is significantly wetter than the dough itself. So it's going to make the dough itself more hydrated. All right, so I'm in the final stages of this first complete mix. Final stages meaning I'm adding the butter to the mix. And so I've got my butter measured out for both mixes. I'm just going to separate out each so I don't go over. And I'm giving it a squeeze as I put it in. It's supposed to be softened. In this case, it's partially softened. And so I can kind of take it the rest of the way. And that way it'll incorporate a little bit easier. The mix is almost done, and I'm not sure that I need any more time. I'm gonna give it a feel and make sure all the butter's really truly been incorporated. But I can already tell by the texture of the dough that the vast majority of the work has been done. Logan came up to me and said, "Good luck." And I don't think I need luck in this case. I think we're just past the line of risk. I wanna give this plenty of time to work its way in the dough. And then at the end, I'll kick it up into second gear and hopefully be ready for butter. So right now, I've got 8 minutes on deck, and I'm hoping that within 8 minutes, I have a nice cohesive dough that's ready to accept the butter like the previous one was. So I just reached the end of that original 8 minutes of programming, and I'm both looking at the dough and looking at my mixer. The mixer, I'm wondering why it's doing this. So I'm not used to seeing that motion. I can spot issues, but then actually going in and truly diagnosing them when they're still small issues before they become bigger problems. It's still a long learning curve. I've definitely learned one thing over time, that most equipment failure happens in stages, where you have sort of the small issue that's easy to resolve, followed by greater and greater amounts of damage. At a certain point, it becomes more costly and takes your equipment out, which is definitely the most costly when you can't produce on it. So my teammate says this has happened to her before, and essentially it's just like the way in which the bowl came down. And there it is. It's no longer doing the... Is something loose in the back that causes the head to come down unevenly? Because I can tell you that it worked 100 out of 100 times when it was first installed, and now it seems rare, but that's what I'm saying. It's a small issue that doesn't take us out. It's something that's easily ignored, but what does it lead to? What is the side effect of not tightening whatever needs to be tightened or fixing it at this stage? Is it a big deal? Is it a small deal? I believe it's important to have some of this diagnostics in your operation so as to avoid more expensive problems. Watch over your equipment. Don't ignore the little stuff. Now we've gotten to the point that it looks exactly like the other mix did.